So if you're looking for a retro handheld in the $100 range, this definitely does surpass something like a V90 in performance and as well as quality. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. TG Geek back here again. Today I have a retro console review. Haven't done one of these in a while, but the Powkiddy V90 review was what really hit it off for my channel, so we're back again with some more retro stuff. Right off the bat, I have a little battle scar, but you know, it looks better with a band-aid, so yeah, just ignore that. So this is the Miyoo Mini Plus, and it's basically just a very modern version of a Game Boy with backlit screen, rechargeable battery, a very large screen. This is actually pretty much the actual scale of the device, and the screen's this entire area. USB Type-C charging, you know, the works. This unit in particular was provided by Gogamegeek. Gogamegeek is a seller and distributor of products like this, and if you'd be interested in getting one, I'd more than encourage you to go and check out their storefront or to buy a similar retro system. But they didn't sponsor me or anything. Just if you want to show them support for supporting the channel and sending this to check out, go make sure to check out their store. I'll leave the link below. So something that I forgot to mention, there's the 64GB model and the 128GB model. The 128GB model comes with a lot of games that the 64GB model doesn't. Like I believe Tomb Raider and maybe even Crash Bandicoot don't come on the 64GB version, but they come on the 128. So this version in particular that they sell is the 128GB version, so you get a lot more games and a lot more storage if you guys are looking at, you know, that pricing wise. So looking at the key specs, micro SD card, that's our 128 gig, 7 to 8 hour battery life, a 3.5-inch IPS display. It claims that it's a original resolution display, screen brightness adjustment, 3000 mAh battery, and Wi-Fi. So I'm not entirely sure what the Wi-Fi is for, but what I believe really all it's for is for updating the operating system and getting kind of patches and stuff like that. You can't really add games to it over the internet or anything like that. I think it's just sort of for system updates. But now for the moment of truth, you guys have probably seen this funky box, which is actually really cool. You just pull and it slides right out. So we're immediately greeted with the instructions, which are this bright orange color. So we can see we have a D-pad, face buttons, 4 triggers. It says that we have 3 separate indicator lights. I'm sure one's for power, one's for charging. I'm not too sure what the other one's for. Volume, power, basic things. And it says for firmware upgrade you have to use the SD card. So I'm actually not quite sure what the Wi-Fi is for, but we can find that out in a minute. And finally, to add more games, you just use the SD card with their included adapter. And you can just plug it into your computer and put your games on it that you have. Also included in the box are some skins and stickers if you want to customize your Miyoo Mini. Now I'm not entirely sure if this is something that comes with all of them because I haven't seen this with all units, or if this is something that Gogamegeek storefront does. So we have this sort of abstract one, and then we have 3 different Galaxy ones. So if you look closely, you can see that the buttons are cut out, and that just goes right on the face here. And you guys can probably already tell that I have the atomic purple one, so I feel like it's between this one and this one. Probably this one. I'll put all these other ones off to the side. It's very cool of them to include that. So there's our vinyl skin. And then pulling the device out here is the actual unit. I'm going to put this off to the side and finish what's in here. So included in the box, we have a tempered glass screen protector, which for a pretty expensive unit like this, you do want to take care of it. It's not necessarily a disposable item, you know, you spent some good money on it. So they include, you know, the skin and the screen protector. So you know, that's pretty cool. Protect your investment. Because this thing is pretty cheap, but it's not necessarily a budget handheld. We have our wipes for the screen protector to install it without problems. Then finally, we have our USB Type-C cable with USB-A on one end, and our micro SD to USB adapter to add more games using your computer. So I was surprised never the Powkiddy V90 had USB Type-C, but now it seems that all of these retro systems are starting to move to Type-C, which I'm totally a fan of, kind of having everything with the same port. Charges fast, and you know, it's not a horrible port all in all. So here's our first look at the Miyoo Mini Plus. This is their sort of atomic purple, clear purple version. You can see the actual speaker in there. You can kind of see the motherboard. From the back, you can see, you know, the buttons through the actual triggers. You can see your battery, which is replaceable. You can see the charging port and all that through the plastic, and it's honestly just a really cool throwback to sort of the atomic line of Game Boys. So it does come with a film on the screen, but I do want to put this tempered glass screen protector, so let's get on that real quick. Screen does look pretty clean because I just took that off, so I'm not too sure if I'm going to have to use this cleaning stuff, so I'm going to play it risky and not. Alright, and this is the screen protector installed with all the bubbles worked out. a nice little inclusion, and obviously you can still see the screen and stuff just fine. Finally, let's put on this little vinyl skin that they included. So this is the skin installed. Something I didn't realize is that this is actually a cut mark on this one in particular, which is unfortunate because this one does look pretty cool. But the unfortunate thing about these skins is it actually covers the button labels, which isn't horrible for most people, but it will be a little confusing for some. I'm just going to put that back on there and save it with the others. Alright, so after all that, we're finally looking at the Miyoo Mini Plus. One of the major features is if you just press this button on top, it suspends the game, puts the system asleep, sort of going around the device here. So we obviously have the triggers on the back, our battery, which is removable and replaceable. It's a 3000 milliamp hour unit, and it says that up there. On the bottom you have headphone jack, our 128 gigabyte micro SD card, and our USB Type-C port for charging. Now what comes on this is some version of Linux in one way or another, but there are custom operating systems that you can put on this, on a different card, put all your games, whatever. On the left side of the device we have a volume rocker, so down, up, pretty simple, with a battery indicator in the corner. And on the top we have our 3 indicator lights. The right one being for power, the middle one lights up whenever it's charging. I have no clue what the third one is for, if you can even see the third one. This clear purple looks really, really awesome, but with the lights, they kind of bleed through to the other ones and it looks a little weird. But that's what you get if you want the clear one, I guess. So this device, despite looking a lot like a Game Boy, can run up to PlayStation 1 actually pretty stably. This device actually uses RetroArch in the back end, or RetroArch, however you want to pronounce it. And when booting it up, you can see it says Miyoo Linux Games. So it's using RetroArch within some distribution of Linux here. So in a way, it's sort of like the RetroPie operating system, if you ever use that. And I don't know if RetroPie would work on something like this. If someone can drop a comment and let me know. Because I feel like RetroPie does have a lot of compatibility with all sorts of different things. So starting with settings, we have everything from power off. You can obviously do with the button, of course. We have brightness, which is on 7 right now, but we can go up to 10 and then go back down. Just gonna leave it on 7. Wi-Fi. So you can turn the Wi-Fi on, and it'll search for networks and stuff. I actually have no idea what the Wi-Fi on this thing is for. I'm not going to connect it as of now, because it says in the instructions that you use the SD card to update it. So I'm not too sure what you use the Wi-Fi for on this thing. I'll do some research, but moving forward we have color. So this is just adjusting the actual color settings of the screen. Language, it's on English, so I'll leave it. Key mapping to change what each button does. By default, it's the Nintendo layout, where this is back and this is select, which is the inverse of the Xbox and PlayStation layout, where this is select. You have background music volume, because there is music playing right now. And then you can turn that up individually. I just have it on 10 out of 20 right now, where it's not, overly loud. Then of course there's themes. So right now we're in default. Let's try blue assist. In case that looks interesting. Black. Yeah, so basically, even with this inbuilt operating system, there's lots of tweaks, lots of customization and personalization. So I'm gonna find a theme that I like, and we'll continue from there. Alright, so there's this layout that is called Switch, so it resembles a Nintendo Switch. You have this nice big battery icon, and just the tiles look like a Nintendo Switch, which I think is pretty cool. So the only apps that come on here are the File Explorer and RetroArch by itself, but whenever you run games through the game menu, it runs them through RetroArch, so no need for that. And there's also just a RetroArch icon right here, in addition to this one. So if you go here, you can run all the exact same games that you can run through this menu. It's the same game list. This is just if you kind of want to do it manually, basically. And then some of these lists are not in alphabetical order, and whenever they're not, they'll have a list like find by letter, which is. But whenever they are in alphabetical order, that folder is present. So for Famicom or Nintendo, let's go to find by letter. Then you can use the triggers to skip pages. Alright, this just looks like regular Super Mario. So first things first, if you press this button, this kind of just gives you your emulator settings. So this is kind of like the quick menu that's built into the operating system. But if you want the individual like RetroArch settings, you can hit this right here that says native menu. So there's stuff like save state if you want to save a game like Mario that can't be saved and continue later. Rewind, cheats, all kind of stuff. Current aspect ratio, some people find it to be stretched and not look that great, but it's fine for me. The color on the screen actually looks pretty phenomenal. So you do lose a little bit of color at an angle, but honestly, all in all, this is a very bright and very colorful panel. So let's just kind of play a little bit of Mario, see how it runs. So first thing, the sound's a little sped up, but that's typical for a lot of these emulators. I think it has something to do with the frame rate and the game running twice as fast as it needs to, but that is something that you can fix yourself. But overall, more than playable experience, and definitely is pretty cool so far. But let's exit game and check out some other consoles. There's some things in here like arcade and FF Play. FF Play is empty actually. That I probably won't check out, but a lot of the main systems we're going to check out today. And another system that I feel is pretty well suited for this device is Game Boy Advance. Now with this particular emulator, it puts these borders automatically to make the aspect ratio correct. But of course, just like all the other systems, you can press this button, go to native menu, and then change all that yourself. So not an overly complicated game. We have Mario Advance going right now. So like I said, nothing overly complicated, but no audio issues as far as I can tell. And no performance issues either. Hope you guys are able to hear the speaker well in that part, because I'm probably going to keep it turned down a little bit whenever I'm talking. But yeah, no performance issues for Game Boy Advance, and I know that there's a lot more complex games. But for something that just fits in your pocket and resembles an original Game Boy, I feel like it's already, super sick for the price. So there's all kinds of systems that are preloaded on here. Neo Geo Pocket, OpenBOR, whatever that is, PC Engine, PlayStation 1, Super Famicom, Sega Master System, whatever Shoot is, and WSC, I think might be WonderSwan. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. First game I see is Donkey Kong Country, so we're just going to give that a shot. And yeah, while this display is not a OLED, it is a IPS, it still looks very, very good. Probably going to show up pretty similar to camera to how it looks in person, but the blacks are pretty dark, even though it's not an OLED, and the brighter colors really do pop. It's an IPS, not an OLED at the end of the day. But, I mean, just look at that. Is this how you want to play retro games? I'm going to turn the speakers back up here a second. So it is just this one speaker in the bottom right corner. It doesn't seem like your hand particularly blocks it or anything like that. It's not super loud, to be honest, but it also does not sound really shrill and doesn't sound horrible. So let's just take a second to look at Donkey Kong Country running on the Miyoo Mini Plus. The colors and just everything going on the display look super great. Input latency is pretty much non-existent. I haven't thrown any super difficult titles at it, to be honest, but so far it's surpassed my expectations of, just running everything fine. And looks and features wise and just how it feels in hand, it definitely is one of the most premium retro handhelds I've used compared to the Powkiddy V90. And the display really does look super good for it not being an OLED. Somewhere I feel that we should end off the video is on the PlayStation 1 section. Even though this doesn't look like a crazy system and it looks more like a Game Boy than, anything else, this actually can run most of the PlayStation 1 library just fine. On this model, they have games from Crash Bandicoot to Dino Crisis to Silent Hill, Gran Turismo, Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, Spider-Man, and the Tomb Raider games, just to name a few. So let's try Need for Speed 3. Obviously, this only has a D-pad, it doesn't have analog sticks, so you're only going to be able to play PlayStation games that worked with the standard PlayStation controller and not the DualShock controller. This shouldn't come as a shock. DualShock, get it. But only games that don't require the DualShock will work on this. So let's get a race going on Need for Speed here. And just like every other emulator, if you go to native menu, from cheats to controls to all sorts of stuff. So here's Need for Speed 3 for the PlayStation 1. And let's get our car moving. And while I cannot say I've played this game on original PlayStation hardware, it does feel like it's running at full speed, at full resolution. Looks good, I don't hear any audio glitches, and at the end of the day, you're playing a PlayStation game on the go. I do feel like PlayStation games are where most of the appeal is for this, since you can play classics like Tomb Raider, Gex, Resident Evil, and such on this pocket-sized device. So yeah, that's the Miyoo Mini Plus. As far as stuff that it comes preloaded with, you can run everything from the original Nintendo Entertainment System to PlayStation 1 at pretty much full speed. The screen looks super nice, and the whole unit, while not heavy, definitely feels dense and a lot better made than some of the cheaper systems that I've dealt with. So if you're looking for a retro handheld in the $100 range, and you sort of want to upgrade or, get something a little better than like a Powkiddy V90 or whatever, This definitely does surpass something like a V90 in performance and as well as quality. The V90 does have the clamshell design, so you can fold it and put it in your pocket and not scratch the screen. But I mean, this comes with a screen protector, so if you want to throw it in your pocket, go ahead. So yeah, that's the Miyoo Mini Plus. Honestly, one of my favorite retro handhelds to date that I've taken a look at. Shout out to Gogamegeek for providing this. All they did was provide it. Not a sponsored video or anything. But if you want to think about getting a Miyoo Mini Plus for yourself, go check out their storefront in the description and see what they have to offer. They're selling this 128GB model specifically that comes with more games than the standard 64GB models that you'd find at most places. So huge shout out to them for providing this and making this video possible. Thank you all for tuning in. That's all from me. I'm out. Peace.